Hi, Natalie. Welcome to the Revitalized Womanhood podcast. To the core.
Hello.
Hi. So
I'm
this is
happy to
so
be here.
this is so funny. This is why Leah and I were giggling before when we started ours. So I've decided that I want to start these Friday episodes with okay, this aged me because she didn't even know what this was, but I said Tales from the Crypt, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that on here because if it's trademarked or copyrighted, I don't even know. But like stories of motherhood, stories of womanhood that, those stories when you hear them and you're like, but they're not funny. They're really sad or traumatic, but they're funny because it's like you just said, what did you just say? You got on this call and you said, my son threw up down the carpeted stairs. That's how your day started, right? And I'm
The
like,
glamorous life.
yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. Uh-huh. Yeah. So I want to start my Friday episodes with stuff like that because I think it's fun. And I think it's like when people tell those stories, or when I tell those stories, or when I tell someone else's stories that I've heard, it makes us all remember that we are linked in so many ways. You might have a multi-million dollar business. You might have nothing more than staying at home. I don't know. I mean, you know what I mean? And we are all linked. We are all linked in the commonality of womanhood, period. And there's just
And
stories like that.
kids will neutralize everyone, regardless of your status.
Oh my
We can
gosh,
all relate
kids.
to that.
Kids for sure. Husbands, kids, husbands. What else? What else will neutralize?
Pets, throw pets in
Vaginas.
there. Vaginas. Yes, that definitely counts.
The one thing. I love that meme going around right now that says, go ahead and let the men be women for 30 days. They'll have one period and not want to do it anymore. And I'm like,
So true.
yep.
So
Well,
true.
Natalie, the reason I asked you here is because I want to share with the listeners your wonderful regaled story of how you found the sisterhood. Where were you? What did your life kind of look like? Whatever, how much you want to share. What did your life look like before you even knew about the sisterhood?
So I am naturally just kind of like a self learner. I love to learn. I have a hunger for learning. So I'm pretty self motivated and would go out and find all these resources. You've got books and podcasts and all these free resources that I was just soaking in and loving. And I honestly used to not like self help. I would kind of mock it or kind of be like I don't need that. Like only the crazies or people that are like have a mental illness or in self help. So that's just how naive I was to it all. But it's probably been 3.5 years ago. I just kind of hit a point in my life where I was like, and it's not that my life was terrible or miserable, but I was like, I want more out of it. Like something's got to give, something's got to change. I have 4 kids. I do that full time. But I'm also an entrepreneur at heart, so there's always different avenues and things that I was looking at and looking into. But I just kind of like I can remember the specific day and time that I was just like something's got to change, something's got to be different. And so I just started seeking a little bit more, started going a little more internally, like turning it on myself. Like that's the only thing that I have control over, and I'm the only thing that's going to change this circumstance. And so a friend had told me about Order of Man, and that's how, and I'd listened to that for, probably 2 years. And that's kind of how your name and the mention of the sisterhood got to me. And it was one of those things that I was just like, like I just, like I can do it on my own. I'm pretty sufficient on my own. Like I can power through it. And so I just kind of put it on the back burner again. And then it just kind of kept coming into my life. And I thought, I'm going to listen to this. Like, what is the worst that can happen? So I signed up, joined the membership, and it was brand new, like just getting going. And I'm one too, like I'm great in a small crowd, great one-on-one, but you get me with a group of women and I'm gonna kind of sit back and observe versus step in and just assert myself. So I joined, and I was kind of just like, I don't really know what's going on. Wasn't sure. And I just thought, you know what? I tried it. We can check that off the list. It wasn't it. And then I spoke with you, and I just still felt like this was something that women needed, and more than that, it was something that I needed, and something that depending on how I took it, I could sit back and I could stay and observe, and I could be an observer, or I could step in and I could join. Like this was going to be what I wanted it to be. And so I thought I'm going to make it, once again, that's the only thing I can have control over is myself and what I can do about it. So I just fully stepped in, and I absolutely love it. Like I have not looked back and not regretted it. And what I love too is it's not like it's once you're in and there's no getting out of it. It's like if it isn't a fit for you, like that, there's just no risk with it, and that's what I love. Um,
And I say that. I tell you
yeah,
all that all the time. And I say it when I interview people who have other communities. It's like, maybe I'm not your cup of tea. Maybe, look, thankfully, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, probably still in here, but there's enough of us in here that there's enough of everybody. But if I'm not your cup of tea, Melanie Studley might be your cup of tea, or Trina Glines might be your cup of tea, or Jennifer Nelson might be your cup of tea. Like there are communities everywhere. Find your cup of tea. Find the one that speaks to you, because I think it's so important. There's enough to go around, right?
yeah,
And I think that that's so important. Like you're saying, the things that you felt you were missing, you maybe didn't even know to put like your finger on it at that time. But speaking of that, can you elaborate a little bit more on what it was that was kind of like, because for Kelly, I know with her testimonial that she put on the website, I mean, I know because I talk to her all the time, but on her testimonial, she specifically said, I did not have time for another thing. Like, not even just about the sisterhood, just anything in life. She's like, I just felt like I was going from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And I thought to myself, how on earth, if I decided, oh, I want to go on a vacation, or if I decided, oh, I want to take a cooking class, or I decided, right, like how on earth could I possibly do that? So was it something like that when you had this moment of something's got to give? Or what was it for you?
yeah. I mean, like in our lives, we have like so much going on, and with kids running and going. And I just thought, like, I need, like, sure, there are areas of things that I could cut out, but like, I need something to help me manage this. Like, how can I make what I'm doing function and flow better? And so, if I can find something that helps ground me and helps me organize and orchestrate all of this, then yes, like 100%, I want that. And so that's what I'm like, that's what I want out of the sisterhood. Someone else in the sisterhood may not want that, but I love that you can get that. And I love that it's like, this is what I want out of it. So that's what I'm going to focus on. So yeah, just being able, the other thing that I love too is just you know, I grew up, I've lived in the same state basically my whole life, the same town. So you're surrounded by women that think similar, your culture is similar, you're brought up very similarly. So a lot of these topics or discussions don't always get addressed because it's like, well, we're all just kind of assume we're on the same page about everything. So I love the discussion and stuff that I get from women all across the US, in Canada, that it's like, yeah, they were brought up differently. They were raised differently. And I love being able to go to them with something and be like, all right, how is that? Or just to expand my perspective and expand, my thinking. And I enjoy that. That's one of my favorite things.
I just had a thought, and instead of cutting you off, I sat here and I know better. I should write it down. When I think about it, I should write it down. It'll come back. You know me. It'll come back in like 5 minutes. But I think, oh, there it is. See, there it is. I think also when you're talking about that with community, it made me think of Ryan. And I don't know why this is something I'm thinking about, but when he started Order of Man, I know because he was raised in the same community and had the same friends growing up, and right, everybody knows everybody, right? So people kind of look at you like like if I was still up in Kaysville, living my life in Kaysville, they would still be thinking of me as the same Gina that was in high school with them, or the same Gina that was in junior high with them, or the same, right? And I am not that person. I'm not at all that person. I'm not even the same person I was 2 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 7 months ago when I started this community at all. And so for people to have those concepts of who you are, so that's how they kind of treat you. And not that it's a bad thing. It's not a good or a bad, right? It's just a thing. It's also limits what you expect of yourself. Because if, say, they're only expecting you to be checking off XYZ, these boxes, you're a mom, you're a wife, you go to church, right? You have these boxes, you're part of the PTA, whatever, just in general, then that's what you're being expected to do. So you're doing those things and you're like, yes, this is right. This is my life. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. But then I think that's where we start to come into those things where you get those nagging feelings like, is this all I'm supposed to be doing? Because we're not utilizing the things that we talk about in our community, like your God-given gifts, right? Your purpose on this planet, which, yes, your purpose is to have these babies and to have this family. That is a purpose. But your gifts in providing more to the world are in there too. You know, it's not just procreating. It's the way that you nurture your family. That is your God-given gift. That is a purpose. So that goes so much further beyond. It can go so much further beyond just your nuclear family into the community. Like, am I supposed to be, is something, so for me, when Ryan said, do you want to do this? I was like, yes, absolutely. I have a calling and I feel this in my core, and I didn't know where it would come out. I've heard it before because we know, like in our religion, I've heard things before of where this needed to come out, but I've never taken it seriously, of course, you know, because I have my own wayward path with the religion, but it was still there. It was a concept of you need to lead and it needs to be something to do with young women or something to do, right? And it was there. So I've always kind of felt that that was kind of a calling. And so I looked for it in different ways, not specifically, like this didn't even come to me. This putting this two and two together of that message with what I'm actually doing right now only came to me. It was like an aha moment, like 3 weeks ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally even forgotten that I had that. And I was like, holy cow, that's so funny. And it was when I came up with Revitalize Young Womanhood, when I said I wanted to do the summer coaching for young women. So for my listeners, just so you know, this is what I've been talking about, doing kind of like a summer camp, if you will, for ages between like 12 and 18, and taking these concepts of what we're learning in the Revitalized Sisterhood and bringing that to the younger generation. Because sometimes it's like your mom is saying it, right? So we've got Mandy trying to tell her daughters this, and they're like, oh, Mom, you're such a nerd. You don't know what you're talking about, right? I mean, that would have been my reaction to my mother that was trying to teach me mindset coaching or self-confidence or whatever. I would have been like, you have to say that. You're my mom. Whereas someone else, maybe in a different leadership role, I would have been like, oh, that's right. Okay, I get that. That's something, you don't have to say this to me. You're not my mom, right? And so that's when Revitalize Young Womanhood, the camp concept of having a camp this summer for them, came. And it was like, we have these things in us. So what is it that is making us hide these things? What is it that's making us push these things down? What is it that's making us not listen to more of our needs, right?
Well, and I think, like you said, it's really important to listen. Like, I love how you said you had that instinct, that feeling, and then you acted on it. Because same with me, like I look back at, how I've gotten to where I'm at now, even with business and other things, it's like, if I wouldn't have taken that step, that wouldn't have opened that door, which opened that door, which opened that door. And like just being able to, instead of just kind of continuing to push it down, but to be like, you know what, like what harm is it to act on this? Like what, and it takes nerve, like I said, I never thought I'd be on a podcast, like ever, but to be able to, like, yeah, that opened an opportunity and an opportunity to meet people and an opportunity to learn. Like, I just have learned so much about myself. And that's, I love that saying, like, the more you learn, the less you know. But it is good in other ways where I'm like, I love being able to just dig into myself and learn. And I feel like, when you date people, it's like you learn something about yourself when you date other people. And, after you get married, you stop that. But I feel like with women, it's like you continue to build relationships with other people, and that tells you about yourself, and you continue to learn things about yourself. So I think it's really important that we do, like, because I look back like as a young mom and everything, and like my second, I'm like, I just survived. Like I legit just survived the toddler years. I didn't enjoy them. And so as I've gotten older, like with my youngest kid and even my other boy, like I was able to slow down a little bit because, without pictures, I'd be like, I have no idea what happened in those 5 years that I was raising those kids. So I think it's important to just be able to, if you feel something, to act on it and to see where it takes you versus putting it on the back burner.
Okay, I'm coming back to that because I wrote it down, see how good I am. But what you just said about that, it's so interesting to me. It comes back to the concept of we go to school for all of these things, right? You learn the math that you'll never need to learn. You learn the biology that you'll never need to use. You learn all of these things growing up. And this is why homeschooling, I really, really love and support homeschooling for this reason. But the most important thing that you're supposed to know about or be able to handle, which obviously there's no rule book for parenting, right? They're all different. They're all very different. Obviously there's no rule book for marriage. It's very different, right? You're two different personalities, but you can learn mindset. You can learn like good leaders ask great questions, atomic habits. You can learn these things. So why wouldn't we, or the powers that be, whoever were forcing us to learn and take in all of this useless information that we would maybe use someday, not be preparing us for our most important jobs, right? Which some people do, obviously. Like if you're a cardiac surgeon, you're learning what's most important for your job, right? If you're going to be an engineer or work for NASA or whatever, I get that those are very specific things. But for a mom, for a wife, for those specific roles and jobs, and I know you have other roles that come with more of a playbook and this is how you learn and this is how you do this. But why not start teaching our youth or the young women mindset, right? Teaching them that there's going to be good and bad. There's going to be highs and lows. Your emotions are going to be all over the place, but the key to it is resilience, right? Knowing and trusting yourself that you will be able to handle that and come out of it okay, and then tomorrow will be a new day, right? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, instead, like for all of us, it's like, here's your baby. And even on my third one, even on the last one, I'm like, I don't think I should be going home with him right now. I am not prepared for this. You guys, this can't be okay. It can't be okay, right? And I think we all feel that way. And it's like, what could have prepared me more for that, right? What could have prepared me more for being first married and having those first fights when you're trying to figure out personalities? And maybe an Enneagram coach would have been more appropriate than taking philosophy in college or then taking computer science. Like I learned nothing in computer science.
Right.
And that I couldn't just learn by sitting here figuring it out myself. But maybe I could have had an Enneagram coach telling me about what this number meant and what this number meant. And that's the husband I have now. So now maybe I can communicate with him better because I understand him better. Yes. Or maybe I don't want to marry him at all because he is that and I will never understand that. Or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Sorry, that was just like, whew, but a thought that just...
Yeah, no, I love the Enneagram because I think it's one of those things that helps you understand yourself, but it helps you, like I said, in your marriages with your kids, but just being able, like you said, if we could come in I'm getting ahead of myself, but if we could come in knowing what we know now, how much further ahead would we be? On the other hand, it's like, somebody couldn't have just handed us, we wouldn't have been ready for that. There was lessons that we had to learn. There were experiences we had to have had that comes with age. And so I do understand that too. But if, like I said, you can coach and teach the method of mindset because, some people, like I naturally have a more optimistic personality. Like you put me in a cardboard box with water and I will like think of something to do or something to make it better. Then you have other personalities that it's like, this is the worst thing ever. Life is in the garbage, and their brain may be really good in a different aspect, but being able to be like, yeah, in any situation, how can you pivot? How can you make the best out of it? And how can you learn from it? And I've gotten to the point in my life, I've made so many mistakes and messed up, but um, when you take each lesson as something to learn from, then it kind of removes the fear because even if you fail at it, then it's like, well, I learned. And so it eases the pain or also the expectation of like, no, you failed. It's just like, no, I learned. I learned something. So now I'm going to be this much further ahead in my next venture that I do or take.
Yeah, absolutely. And to play devil's advocate on what I said and totally contradict myself, but that I love that you brought up that we wouldn't have been ready for it maybe. I love that you brought that up because if you think about it, I shouldn't have gone to college when I did because I wasn't ready for the learning, right? I really appreciate some of the countries that do a gap year and let their kids go travel or go kind of figure out who they are before trying to set a major, before trying to come to school, because I think if you're not ready to take in the information and the knowledge in the way it's supposed to be taken in, it's worthless. I mean, we see that all the time. That kids are just aimless and they go and they spend all this money on these educations that they're not getting anything from. But if they had waited maybe for inspiration to come around and then it's something that they're passionate about and they can really just deep dive into it, right? That concept, because that takes me back to before I started this and Rick would say, read this self-help book and read this self-help book. And I was like, no, thank you. That's not for me. I'm going to go read something about vampires. I don't know,
Which is so boring.
I'm just going to go into this land of imagination and entertain myself. Right. But then once I started it and that Pandora's box was opened, it was like, whoa, right? But maybe I wouldn't have been ready for that when I was 25. Maybe I would have been like, oh, I know everything. I don't need to know this.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that the attitude is the huge difference in, just being ready for it. Because, like I said, I look back and it makes you not be resentful or have, like, oh, I wish I would have, I wish I could have. I just am like, I am where I am. And I've come this far and I've learned this much. How can I take that knowledge and make it better today, tomorrow, in the next 5, 10 years? So
Yeah.
helpful.
I want to go back to you just saying yes. I love that. That's one of my most favorite things is just say yes, just jump in, just be curious, just see what it's about because we see a lot women that will come and join our community and not be curious and not be open and maybe scared. And that's fine. It's like we're just talking about. Maybe you're not ready for this. Maybe you're not ready for the mirror to be held up in front of your face. Maybe you're not ready to learn more about yourself or, and that's fine. That's 100%. Come back around and come back when you're ready. But also just getting to the point for something like this, like for you and I, it was joining Saint, right? It was becoming a Saint artist. It was you say yes. Like, what's it going to hurt? Like you like something and it interests you and look how beautiful you are. You obviously you're way more talented at it than I am. But that just say yes led me to your just say yes is different. Obviously, your path is different than mine, but that just say yes led me to jumping into going to that first conference in San Diego that they had. That was the first one after COVID. So they'd been shut down for a couple years. And I was like, yes, yay, woohoo. And that opened my mind to the concept of a women's community. And I was like, whoa, I found it. It just like opened my mind to, okay, I digress, but retreats, wow. that opened my mind too, both because before that, I never would have been, I'd been like, no, because we travel all the time. We travel. Why would I need a retreat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I need to go have a vacation with these women that possibly I don't really know that well? But that opened my mind to, oh my gosh, when amazing women get together, the most magical, crazy cool things happen, right? The energy, the experience, the learning, it's crazy. So when I've been marketing this retreat for this year, I think, how can they not know how amazing this is? How can they not understand how cool this is? Because I wouldn't have known that until I did that. So that just say yes led to saying yes to this community. And that big just say yes led to jumping right into going to that retreat in Scottsdale, which blew my mind above and beyond, no matter what was provided, no matter what, just the fact of what it was and me saying yes to it and paying that much for something, putting that much back into myself and being like able to, what's the word? Not depend on myself. What's the word? Bet on myself, right? Like I can do this. I can do this. I want to do this and I can do this. That kind of experience was unbelievably priceless. And so I 100% just say yes is one of my biggest philosophies. And that goes back to you when you almost did quit and leave us. And I was like hanging on, like, you're not leaving me, Natalie, you're not. And we got to the bottom of what it was. And you made that commitment to yourself. You bet on yourself. You said, you're right. I am going to make this what I need and what I'm looking for. And you have gone clear to the umpteenth side because now you are a squad leader and you are the only squad that is at capacity of members and you guys are crushing it. I have inside information about something and you are an amazing squad leader from that. What I know of that inside information. It's a secret, so I can't tell you. But how are you feeling then now with where you were before the sisterhood and what your life looks like as far as where you're going? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the conversation we had yesterday in our leader call. Like, what are you preparing for now to be able to do later?
So, like before, it was very much I had all this access, all this information. I'd listen to a podcast. Ooh, that was really good, or that was really, and then you just go back to your normal thing. And then you listen to the next podcast or the next book, and oh, yeah, that's great information. And then you just go back to your old habits. Well, with this, it's like, no, we're going to take this concept and we are going to write it down. We are going to, I like lists and organization, so we are going to categorize things, like we are going to make a plan so that you can get to plan B, so you can get from point A to point B. So in 1 month, I am not where I was and I'm tracking it. And I never tracked things before. It was just like, and I'm so good at justifying, like, I'm pretty consistent with exercise, pretty consistent with, like I said, reading and doing things like that. But if I don't have that accountability to be like, I'm just like, oh, I so easily can talk myself out of things. So that's a huge shift. I always giggle at all your podcasts. You talk about your flat butt and like gaining weight too, because I have the same issue. And it is so hard to vent to women about because they're all like, oh my gosh, I would love
I
to get
wish,
there.
I wish I
Yes.
had that. I wish I could give you some of mine. It's like, I don't
Yes.
need some of yours. I will gain my own, but it's
Yes, it's hard.
impossible.
It is hard. But so that hadn't even been on my body goal or anything, but I put on 5 pounds over this last. And I think it is just a big part of paying attention to my health, like doing that. So just recording things and tracking it and then having these women to report back to, like that is huge for me. And it's not, and each squad is differently, but with our squad within it, we are very much like, we're going to hold ourselves accountable, but we are our biggest advocates of accountability because if something were to happen or whatever, it's like I always want to be able to go back to myself and build that trust with myself that I can continue this. But having them, like I said, just having to write it down and having to discuss it and talk about it is huge. And it seems like it's such a little thing. You're like, why can't you just do that with your friend or your sister or but it is different when you have these women that I knew nothing about. We come together and are able to work through some hard stuff. We are able to talk about hard issues in our marriages and our families that you maybe wouldn't feel comfortable sharing with your family member because that's going to change their view about the person, they know. And so I like being able to have that. But it just filters and like I said, it organizes everything that you hope and want to be and that it takes all your some days or one day I'd like to be and it just puts it into an action plan. And I love that because I am tracking progress and I know if I do the work and I put my time in, once again, that's all my accountability. If I do those things, I know in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, a year, 5 years, I'm going to be even better than what I was. And that's exciting. And I seriously look forward to I love who I am. I love who I'm becoming and I love who I'm going to be too because I know I'm going to put the work in.
Isn't it just rev your engines, right? Thinking about
Yeah.
that, thinking about like, I know that if I say by this day, I'm going to have this XYZ, like, I don't know how to make it so specific, but okay, we'll say easy as a vacation, a family vacation. By this day, we're going to be able to go on this vacation because I have A, budgeted for it, B, got everybody's schedules in order for it, C, right? You're building a life intentionally to be able to live the life that you visualize, dream about, idealize,
And I'd
right?
always, like I said, you kind of have those thoughts in your head, but to have somebody be like, no, create a vision board, put it on paper. And once again, could I have done that on my own? Sure. But did I? No. But having
Right.
a group of women that it's like, this is what we're working on and focusing on, and we're going to talk about it weekly, you get stuff done. Like one of my things in my biz category is like photos are so overwhelming for me. So it's like I know in 90 days my photo wall is going to be done, my photo books are going to be done. I'm going to have the family calendar done. So just knowing if I eat away at it every day, like hey, in 90 days I can check that off and something that's been weighing on me for like 7 years is going to be done. you know, it's going to be done.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
My favorite is I always go back to thinking about it like a gym pass. Like not only being able to say, "Oh my gosh, how can you not realize how amazing retreats are?" Which I think they are starting to become more and more normalized because they are so cool, and what you take away from them is so cool. So I do think it's starting to spread, and I'm grateful for that. But even just a community like this, and the concept of paying for a community like this, right? Because, like you and I both said, we can do these things on our own. We go to the gym by ourselves. We stay fit by ourselves. We get ready. We have things where we are high functioning in areas of our lives that like I do things on my own. Like you digging into self-help, you were doing things on your own. But it's about being held accountable and not just, okay, so you go to the gym. And for me, I have to go to a gym class, right? I have to. I have to be held accountable. If I just go to the gym to just work out, Rick can do it. I can't do it. I will wander around. I'll lay on the floor, do some crunches, look on my phone, like so wasted time, like so wasted. Or even just get on the treadmill and listen to a podcast, which you and I know I cannot do. I cannot burn more calories. That's the worst thing I can do at the gym. So I have to go to a class because that will keep me accountable. Women are looking at me like someone's expecting me to do something. I can't just stand here. They will think I'm weird. That's my accountability. But even more than that, I have paid for this, right? How much free information is out there? Is so much free information. You can become anything you want to be on your own just from the information on the internet. Like I swear, everything is on the internet. But do you do it? No. But if you go and spend money on something, you better believe I'm getting my worth of it. If I go and buy a shirt and then some button pops off it, I'm taking it back, right? And I'm going to replace it with one that the button hasn't popped off because that's a value to me. That money that I just put towards something has value. So when I say join the Sisterhood, it's $97 a month or even cheaper if you sign up for a year. You're putting skin in the game and making like an agreement with yourself that you're going to get this done, right? Like for me, the coaching that I pay for, I'm getting it done. I have multiple things that need to be getting done, but guess what one's going to be the first one? The one that I paid for, because I need to get the value out of that because I have skin in the game and I put money towards it. So it's so interesting that it's a concept that I can say and say and say till I'm blue in the face, but until you feel it, until you feel what that feels like, it doesn't make any sense, I think.
Yeah, and it affects how you show up. I mean, even if I was only paying, you know, $12 a month for this, would I miss a Zoom call? 100%. Would I not do the assignments? Totally, because it's like, you know, it's it's just a little bit, but like yeah, when you are invested, it's like I'm going to make sure that this money that I put down every month is going to make me better so that I am like, well, I'm not only paying this, but I'm gaining so much from this that it is worth it. And some women are not motivated by that. Some women, they have the gym membership and they never use it and they never go and it doesn't bother them. And that's where it's like you have to, and there's women in this community that will give you what you need and you will contribute to that. And you've got to decide that for yourself. But for me, yeah, 100%, if I have money in it, I'm going to make sure I'm getting my investment and a return on it. So, and it has been that for me, like I said, and being able to go to the retreat, I am seriously so pumped. Like, I know you love to travel and you're so good at planning stuff, and it's not going to be just another run of the mill thing. It's going to be so fun. And, once again, that's cost money. Could I go and go on a trip with me and one of my girlfriends? 100% and spend that money on that. But once it's an investment in myself and it's an investment to be able to, like, I know I'm going to go there, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to become better from it. I'm going to come back and I'm going to treat my family better from it. I'm going to develop every time. So I love that it's like, yeah, you get that, you get the fun, you get the girl time, but you're going home with knowledge, you're going home with renewal. Because I've done the Saint retreats too, but I've never done one just for me, like just for my self development. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I think it'll be fun. And I just cannot wait to meet all these women that I've been talking to forever, to be able to see them in person and hug them and just take it to the next level.
I know, it's so good. It's so good. I can't wait. And I'm planning it and I'm like just giddy over it. I just got done talking to Jen Hurst yesterday. Actually, we had a planning meeting yesterday, and she's sending me over a PDF that she's created for all of you before the retreat so that you can come even more prepared and even more ready to be in the discussion. So
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
so excited. Well, okay, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for recording with me. That is exactly what I needed out of this episode, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing your story and how you're doing and what you're feeling about the sisterhood, because I really think if my message is anything, it's find your community. Like, it's so important. If it's not mine, fine. I'll help you find it. I will help you find your community. I am a bridge person. I will find it for you. Maybe I know
love
the
how
person.
genuine that is.
Yeah, it is. And it is. And maybe some people don't appreciate that. But I think the more you get to know me, you understand that that is absolutely what it is. I have another coach that has her own community joining us at our retreat as a guest because I love her so much. And if that meant that someone else went to her community, I would be fine with that. That means that's where they belong, right? But find your community. And the next thing on that is just say yes. Just do it. So many times I have all of these messages of these women that are asking questions about the sisterhood and whatever, which is great. I'm here to answer those questions for you. However, just do it. Give it 30 days. Be open. Be curious. What's an investment of $97 for 30 days? That's less than 1 day of a Target haul. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but I go into Target and it's $200. I go into the grocery store, it's $150. Costco is the $100 store. You do not walk in there without spending $100. So
No.
give yourself the credit to be curious enough to invest in yourself enough to just do it. Stop asking questions, stop making up excuses in your head, and just try it. If you hate it, then you quit and try something else. Sorry.
After you express what you need, because that was one of my biggest things is
Oh, yes.
I didn't go in and say like this is what I want or need out of it. Like, go and, because as leaders too, it's like we want to help you get to where you want to be. We want that. We won't know that unless you voice it. So tell us what you want and need out of it, and
Oh my
we'll
gosh,
get you
Kelly,
there.
every day she's a broken record. If there was a swear jar for Kelly that's the quarter every time she says it, it would be just ask me the question. Just ask me the question. If I don't have the question, I can't answer it for you. We each have our swear jars. Mandy's is anytime she says something bad about herself. And mine is every time I say, how can we get more members? I'm, I'm like, Mandy, what would my swear jar be? And she said that. And I was like,
How can we get more?
well, that's kind of my job, but I guess I say it too much. That's
Mm,
full clear as can be. This is me, guys. This is what I talk about behind the scenes. Like, how can we get more members, guys? Let's grow this
oh,
community because I know there's so many women out there that are amazing. Look at the women that we've met so far that
mhm.
have joined us so far. And it's like, I never would have met you. I never. And we're both Saint artists and
Yeah,
we still would have never met. And we live in the same state. We're only 4 hours
yeah,
away, 3 hours away. We would have never met. I would have never met Kelly. I would have never met, right? I would have never met these women who have completely changed my life in a way that is making me think of myself in different ways and better myself. I would have never met them. That's what community does.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. All right, girl. Okay, I'll let you go. We got kids to go take care of, I'm sure. Thank you
Okay.
so much. I'll talk to
Thanks,
you
Gina.
soon.
See ya.